Hey everybody, this is Brian from Carving is Fun, and in this video I'm going to compare several different types of wood finishes that you can use on your whittling and wood carving projects to help protect them over time. Now, in order to make this video, I made 6 pieces of wood out of kiln dried basswood and carved them into the shape that you see here. One side is only knife finished and the other side is finished with 150 grit sandpaper. I made sure to cut across the grain on both sides so you can see what it looks like with and without being sanded. Now all of these have one layer of each of the finishes shown above, with the exception of my control, which is going to be used to compare the color of each of the finishes to the natural wood itself. Again, this is kiln dried basswood, so it's going to be your typical piece of wood that you're going to be using to carve. So the different finishes that I'm going to have here are beeswax paste, mineral oil, Danish oil, Tung oil, and varnish. All of these finishes are easily available from various craft stores, hardware stores, are quite affordable and easy to apply. If you're using this on denser woods, you may need to use a thinner for more wood penetration, or let it sit on the wood for a little bit longer. Alright, so let's start off this video with some of the food safe options here, which are great for beginners and really easy to apply. And that's going to be the beeswax paste and your mineral oil. Alright, so starting off, the beeswax paste is just basically beeswax and mineral oil combined into a nice little paste form. You can literally just dip your finger in there, scoop up some of the paste and rub it into the wood. It's non-toxic, it applies just like lotion, and then when you're done applying it and letting it sit for several minutes, you're going to want to just buff off the excess. It comes out with a nice creamy color, smells great, smells like honey, dries pretty fast, so you don't have to let it sit for a long period of time. Makes it a great option for anyone just starting out. Now, some quick observations. I find it looks a lot better on the side that's sanded versus the side that's not sanded. So knife finish, it still looks good, but it looks a little bit better if you finish it off with sandpaper. So if you're going to be using it, it would be recommended to use it on the sanded side. Keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to. I like the way it looks with the knife finish as well. It's just easier to do and less time consuming. Now, it does have pretty good wood penetration on it. Since it's more of a paste, it doesn't really go into the wood grain too much, so I would not suggest it on using it on harder woods. And keep in mind, if you are using it for like a food application, if you apply warm water or use it in like cooking and whatnot, it has a high chance of the finish coming off. Like I said, it's non-toxic, and your food might start tasting like honey, but it'll still be fine. You will have to reapply it if you're using it for an active purpose like that. So now let's move on to mineral oil. Mineral oil is non-toxic. I use it personally on all my cutting boards, all my wooden spoons, and any of the wooden utensils that I use for cooking and eating with. It's easy to use, just apply it, let it soak in, and buff off the excess. There's no smell to it. Keep in mind that it does not harden, so it doesn't really form like a hard protective layer. However, it does help keep a lot of the waters and other like food particles out of the wood as it acts like an oil barrier. Reapplication will be needed after several uses. I like to reapply after every 5 to 6 times I wash it. Now, some observations. It has a constant coloration, mostly on the sanded side. It looks alright on the knife finish side, but I think it looks much better on the sanded side. So definitely, if you want it for looks, finish your wood off with sandpaper and then apply it. It has pretty good wood penetration. It goes into the wood decently well. Keep in mind, like I said, if you're using it for actually food purposes or cooking, the oil will start to come off with heat and water application, so just reapply it as necessary. Alright, so let's move over to some items that can be considered to be food safe, but I'm going to say this right now as a blanket statement that you may not want to use these for spoons and eating utensils. Instead, check with the manufacturer to see if it is food safe. It's going to be your call. I personally believe the natural versions are fine, especially with tung oil. after they have fully cured. But contact manufacturer, let them have the final say. Alright, so let's start off with the Danish oil finish here. I use the natural version without any sort of solvents or thinners or anything like that, so it can be considered to be non-toxic. Again, contact manufacturer, let them have final say. To apply it right to the wood, allow it to soak into the wood for about 20 to 30 minutes, then you wipe off the excess. It'll take anywhere between 24 hours to 48 hours to dry, and that'll be dependent upon humidity and temperature. It looks better with multiple coats. This is just one coat on here right now, and it'd be good to wear gloves while you're applying it. General observations, it looks much better on the sanded side versus the knife finish side. It's more consistent and just naturally flows over to with the wood grain to the cross wood grain area. So if you want it for just for looks, definitely finish it off with sandpaper before you apply. Has pretty good wood penetration and has decent protection, as it does harden into a protective layer. Again, multiple coats would be better. And then going off to Tung oil. I use the natural version of the Tung oil, which does not have any solvents or anything else in there. It is considered non-toxic, but again, contact the manufacturer, let them have final say. To apply it, I kind of gooped it on here thick with a rag and let it soak in for 20-30 minutes, and then I wiped off the excess. It takes anywhere between 2 to 7 days for it to fully dry. Keep in mind that it is affected by temperature and humidity. It is a very slow drying finish, especially if you're not using any sort of solvents on it. If it has a solvent, sometimes it'll only take 24 hours to dry, but the natural ones can take up to a week. It works best with multiple coats on it. I do advise wearing gloves just in case. Also, another thing of note is that when you're using it, this stuff does harden, and it can harden inside your bottle, so usually you want to disperse the extra air with like marbles in the bottom. And also one more thing on there too of note, you may want to clean off the threads after using it, because otherwise it's stuck. It won't come off. So I have to figure out how to get this off here later. It's literally stuck on there. But general observations, I do find again it has better results on the sanded surface, but it still looks pretty good on the non-sanded surface. It's just a little bit more inconsistent, mostly going across the wood grain like right there. But otherwise, it looks pretty dang good both ways around. Really good wood penetration. I had no problem letting it or getting it deep into the wood and getting a nice rich color with one coat. And it does harden into a protective layer so that it'll help protect your little wood sculpture over a long period of time. I do like this one a lot. It's a great choice if you want a more natural finish that hardens and protects your wood a little bit better. Alright, now the last one I'm covering is not food safe, but is great for outdoor applications. Now the varnishes are a great option, especially if you want it to go outside, if it has a UV filter additive to it. Great choice. It'll help your wood sculptures last outside for years. Usually requires a thinner to work, which is my top portion right here. In order to apply it, you're going to want to follow the guide on the back. I'm going to stress that because some of them are different. I've used a couple of them with minor differences on there and how they recommend it being applied. I'd read the instructions before actually starting to do it instead of winging it. Definitely wear gloves and don't breathe this stuff in. I think that goes without saying. General observations on the finish. Again, just like all the other ones, I find that it has the best results on the sanded surfaces. The unsanded surfaces look good still, but it just seems more even and a little bit better absorption on the sanded surfaces versus the knife finished surface. It does harden into a nice protective layer, just like the Tung oil and the Danish oil. But again, it's a little bit nicer since you can use it outside. Does much better if you use multiple layers, especially if it's going outside. Definitely use multiple coats to make sure that your sculpture is well protected. Now, a thing of note too when using varnish, this comes from when I was when I used to work at a cabinet shop. When we use varnish on any of the wood surfaces, even if we sanded it down really, really well with fine grit sandpaper, we still get this like fuzzy feel into it, and we really wanted our cabinets to look nice and smooth. So what we did after we applied our first layer of varnish is we sanded it down with a high grit sandpaper. It's almost like we're polishing it at that point because it is a hard enamel. So we can sand that smooth, and then we apply another layer of varnish and keep going from there, and it becomes a really, really nice, slick and glossy looking finish to it, depending on the actual varnish that we're using, if it's matte or gloss. But it comes out really nice and smooth if we do it that way. Now if you are a beginner and you want to start putting like a finish on your little wood sculptures like this one right here, I would highly recommend you start off with just the beeswax paste. Super easy to use, it's cheap, it's non-toxic, you can apply it on anything you want, and it's multifaceted. You probably can't use it outside, but it's a great way to protect your little wood carvings and whatnot. If you're going to be doing utensils and whatnot, I would probably recommend mineral oil over anything else. It's easy to apply. You probably already have it, especially if you maintain your own cutting boards. And if you don't have it to take care of your cutting boards, you need to get it to keep your wooden cutting boards hydrated. So if your wooden cutting boards are cracking, you need mineral oil. Apply it on there, let it soak in for an hour or so, and then wipe off the excess. The other ones are great. Maybe more for advanced users, but definitely beeswax paste if you're a brand new beginner and just want something simple to protect your wood carvings with. Now if you liked the video and you want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe. It's a quick and easy way for me to get some feedback from you and see if I'm doing good or not. Also, I'll have the links if you want any of these items down below, so it's an easy way to find them. And as always, thank you for watching and have yourself a great day.